Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a special occasion for me to be here today to share with you about the topic Day of the Dead. Okay, so now let's start.
I will do three things. I will make a statement. For example, I arrived in Guatemala. When you hear a statement, a sentence, you just say, or oh. Okay? You need to say that, show that you understand. This is not a question. Okay? A statement is not a question. So, when you hear a statement, say, For example, I arrive in Guatemala. Okay? The second thing I will do is ask a question you know the answer to. For example, where do I arrive? Okay. I will stop.
I arrive in Guatemala on the Day of the Dead,
You must say
November
the answer
1st.
to every question. I say, I arrive in Guatemala. Where did I arrive? You say,
I arrive
Guatemala.
in Guatemala on the Day of the Dead.
And number three, I might ask a question you don't know the answer to. If you don't know the answer, just guess. Say any answer, but you must answer every question. Use your pause button if necessary. Okay, let's begin. Okay, here we go. I arrived in Guatemala on the Day of the Dead, November 1st. Did I arrive in Guatemala?
Yes,
I
I'm
arrived
arriving in
in
Guatemala
Guatemala.
on the Day of the Dead, November 1st.
Where did I arrive?
I arrived in Guatemala.
Guatemala, right? I arrived in Guatemala.
in Guatemala
I
on the
arrived in
Day of the
Guatemala
Dead,
on the Day
November
of the
1st.
Dead, November 1st. Who arrived in Guatemala on the Day of the Dead?
I arrived in Guatemala
AJ.
on the Day of the Dead,
I arrived
November
in Guatemala
1st.
on the Day of the Dead, November 1st. Did I arrive in Guatemala on November 3rd?
No,
I
I
didn't
don't
arrive
arrive in
in Guatemala
Guatemala on the
November
Day of the Dead,
I arrived
November
in Guatemala
3rd.
on
I
November
arrived in
1st.
Guatemala on the Day of the Dead,
What day
November
did I
1st.
arrive in Guatemala?
Holiday.
November 1st. I arrived in Guatemala on November 1st. Where did I arrive on November 1st?
I arrived in Guatemala on the Day of the
I arrived
Dead.
in Guatemala on November 1st. I arrived in Guatemala on the Day of the Dead, November 1st. I was curious about this holiday, so I went to the cemetery to see what was happening.
Holiday about
Was
this
I angry
holiday.
about this holiday? No, I wasn't angry about this holiday. Was I sad about this holiday? No, I wasn't sad about this holiday. I was curious about this holiday. Who was curious about this holiday?
I'm curious
I was,
about
AJ.
this holiday.
I was curious about
I'm
this
curious
holiday.
about this holiday.
What was I curious about?
I'm curious about this
I was
holiday.
curious about the holiday. Which holiday was I curious about? Which holiday was I curious about? The Day
The
of
Day
the
of
Dead.
the Dead.
I was
curious
the
about
Day
this holiday
of
of the
Was
dead.
I curious about the Day of the Dead? Or
I'm curious
was I
about
curious
the
about
Day of the Dead.
Christmas?
I'm curious about this
I was
holiday of
curious
the
about
dead.
the Day of the Dead, of course. I was curious about the Day of the Dead, so I went to the cemetery to see what was happening. Where did I go?
I go to the
cemetery. I went
to see
to the cemetery.
to see the
Did
to
I
see
go
what's
to
happening.
the cemetery, or did I go to the airport?
No,
I
I go
went
to the cemetery.
Who went to the
What's
cemetery?
happening?
Well, me, right? AJ. I went to the cemetery. Where did I go?
I
To
go
the cemetery.
I go
I
to
went
the cemetery.
To the cemetery.
What's happening?
When did I go to the cemetery? November 1st,
I arrive in
the
go
day
to
of the dead,
the
right? I went
Guatemala
to the
on
cemetery
the Day of the Dead,
on
November
the Day
1st.
of the Dead, November 1st. Why did I go to the cemetery? Well, to see what was happening.
To see
I
what's
went to the
happening.
cemetery to see what was happening.
I'm curious about this holiday.
Who went to the cemetery to see what was happening? Me, AJ.
I go to the cemetery to see what's happening.
Where was the cemetery? In Guatemala. The cemetery was in Guatemala.
On the Day of the Dead.
What is the Day of the Dead? A holiday. The Day of the
holiday.
Dead is
I'm
a
curious
holiday.
about the holiday.
When is the Day of the Dead?
November 1st.
November 1st.
Okay, that's all about my sharing. Thank you so much for your attention. Goodbye.